runs Pandora? Girls. From warriors to spiritual forces, heroes to villains, these are the badass women who shape the fate of the Avatar saga. First up, we're diving into Verang, a warrior forged in fire, ruler of the Mangkwan clan, and a terrifying vision of what Pandora can become when all hope is lost. Let's get started. Mangkwan Origins. Known as the Ash People, the Mangkwan will feature prominently in Avatar Fire and Ash. Once upon a time, they lived much like the Metkayina clan in the rainforest, basing themselves around a giant home tree until a massive volcanic eruption obliterated their home. This turned their lush land into a charred wasteland, killing their home tree and almost all life around it. This catastrophe became the crucible that forged their identity. The Mangkwan grew embittered, nihilistic, and utterly disconnected from the life force of Pandora. Unlike other Navi who revere nature, they came to resent it, rejecting Eywa and the harmony with nature that other Navi preach. To the Mangkwan, the world is cruel, ruled by fire and death, rather than the vibrant life celebrated by other clans. In an official description, they are called an aggressive, volcanic race of people molded by tragedy. They have lost faith that Eywa will protect or guide them. There are even suggestions they sever their queues, neural braids, physically destroying their point of spiritual connection. Some believe the Mangkwan are a haven for outcasts, appearing briefly in the comic Avatar: The Next Shadow as a refuge for Navi who rejected Jake's leadership. They are known to forge weapons from volcanic materials and use aerial predators known as night wraiths, cousins to the Ikran. Their warriors are marked with red and black war paint, contrasting the more peaceful clans. The Mangkwan are feared and distrusted by other clans, possibly even viewed as dangerous outsiders or legends to scare Navi children. Their language and customs have likely diverged, and they are expected to see other clans as weak, focused solely on their own survival. They represent Navi cultural darkness. The Ash Village, the home of the Mangkwan, is unlike anything we've seen before on Pandora. The trailer and concept art reveal a total departure from the majestic, lush beauty of the jungles and reefs, instead taking us to the Ash Clan's harsh, volcanic landscape. Near this region also looms a volcano, hinting at the violent forces that shaped their culture. The trailer shows visible structures built into the charred remnants of their home tree. This appears to be the Ash Village, where the Mangkwan have made survival amidst devastation their way of life. The enormous burned-out trunk suggests their home tree was colossal before destruction. We also see a striking scene of Quaritch walking through the ash. The framing highlights the opposite of lush jungles, barren trees, and volcanic devastation, with Ikran or night wraiths circling ominously in the skies. It's worth noting that the night wraiths look very similar to the Ikran in the trailer, and that the weapons used by the Mangkwan are also no more sophisticated than those of the Metkayina clan in the first movies. Let's move on to the star of the new poster and trailer, Verang. At the heart of the Mangkwan stands Verang, their fearsome leader. Cameron describes her as the leader of a people who have gone through an incredible hardship. Hardened by the loss and suffering her clan endured, Verang has become ruthless. She will do anything for them, even things that we would consider to be evil, Cameron says. Unlike previous Navi, who embody warmth or wisdom, Verang has let grief curdle into fury. She is the first true Navi villain in the Avatar franchise, a warrior queen of Ash standing in stark opposition to the Navi we've seen so far. But Verang is not a one-dimensional evil caricature. She will be a fully realized, flesh-and-blood Navi with believable motivations. Portrayed by Una Chaplin, Verang makes a striking first impression in the trailer. Emerging from a tent structure with her Ikran waiting in the background, she cuts a lean, imposing figure painted in fierce reds and blacks. Her costume is dramatically different from anything we've seen before, signaling immediately that these are a different breed of Navi. Visually, Verang's red and black color palette serves as a visual declaration of her ideological opposition to Neytiri's blues and greens. Perhaps most intriguing, Verang is shown playing with fire in the trailer, possibly hinting at an ability to manipulate it. This raises many speculative questions. Among them, is this a unique ability only Verang possesses, or is it something that other Mangkwan can do? Is this ability biological, stemming from a volcanic connection? The hands of the clan member playing with fire bear distinctive markings or tattoos visible when manipulating the flames. Across Navi culture, such tattoos and skin markings hold profound significance, marking tribal affiliation or rites of passage. Whatever happens, it's clear Verang is a drastic departure from Navi we've seen before, and promises to deliver new surprises for audiences. Everything about Verang, from her appearance to her actions, establishes her as a complex and dangerous force, one who doesn't see herself as evil, but rather as the savior of her people. As John Landau, legendary producer who recently passed away, said, oftentimes people don't see themselves as bad. Verang may embody this idea perfectly, carrying the rage of a devastated people on her shoulders.
Verang's alliance with Quaritch and the RDA.
One of the most ominous revelations in the upcoming film is Verang's alliance with Colonel Miles Quaritch and the forces of the RDA. While previous Navi clans have always united to repel human colonizers, the Mangkwan are different. Verang appears willing to forge an alliance with the very enemies of Pandora. In the trailer, we see two striking sequences. Firstly, we see Quaritch, stripped of the RDA's might, arriving at the Mangkwan clan's territory. Presumably, this is the first meeting where he is suggesting an alliance. Later, we see Quaritch in his Raycom body, flanked by the RDA's AMP suits and multiple Scorpion and Dragon aircraft. Opposite him in the latter stand Verang and at least 5 Mangkwan soldiers, armed with bows and primitive-looking weapons, yet ready for battle if the discussions go the wrong way. These meetings suggest an alliance will be found between the two, which is then seemingly confirmed when we see Quaritch and Mangkwan battle dress. This partnership delivers one of the most shocking twists in the trailer. Quaritch is no longer just a military enforcer for the RDA. He now stands side by side with a Navi clan. Covered in red and white war paint, Quaritch looks fiercer and more dangerous than ever before. This raises the stakes dramatically, shifting the conflict from a straightforward battle of humans versus Navi into something far more complex. Navi versus Navi, tribe against tribe. Whether Verang is manipulating Quaritch or vice versa remains to be seen, but the consequences of this volatile alliance are certain to be explosive.
Verang versus Neytiri.
At the heart of Avatar Fire and Ash lies a clash between two of Pandora's most formidable women, Verang and Neytiri. While Neytiri has always embodied the spiritual harmony of the Navi, Verang represents its polar opposite, a Navi cut off from Eywa, consumed by vengeance. Both women fight fiercely for their people, and both have suffered profound loss. The key question in Fire and Ash is whether Neytiri will stay true to Eywa or follow the same dark path as Verang. The trailer hints that rage may consume Neytiri. Visually, their duel is a stunning contrast. Neytiri, marked by tradition and bioluminescent grace and color, versus Verang, gray, cloaked in ash and adorned with the scars of spiritual severance. The trailer shows intense aerial combat between the two, with Verang charging into battle on her Ikran, launching an attack with her clan. Neytiri leads her own charge, setting up a civil war among the Navi themselves. The showdown between Neytiri and Verang looks set to be the emotional and thematic centerpiece of Fire and Ash. Adding to Verang's menace is the final line of the trailer,
"Your goddess has no dominion here."
In a haunting moment where Verang has Kiri restrained, kneeling before her, Una Chaplin's Verang delivers the chilling line, "Your goddess has no dominion here." So what do you think? Will Neytiri and Eywa win out against the Mangkwan? Will Verang be redeemed? Or will she burn Pandora to ash? Next up, Verang's arch-rival. Neytiri is more than just a warrior. She's a daughter, a leader, a mother, and now, following the end of the Way of Water, a survivor of unimaginable loss. From the great rainforests of Home Tree to the distant ocean clans, her story is woven through every major event on Pandora. This is the complete story of the Navi princess who became the heart of her people's resistance. Let's start at the beginning. Origin and early life. Neytiri Tiskaha Moatite was born in 2136 in the Valley of Moara on Pandora. She is the second daughter of Adakin, the Oloektan, leader of the Metkayina clan, and Moat, the clan's Tsahìk, spiritual leader. Neytiri's elder sister was Silwanen. The Metkayina, also called the People of the Blue Flute, lived at Home Tree Aranahe, a giant living tree in the central rainforests of Pandora. They maintain a deep spiritual connection to Eywa, the guiding force of life on Pandora, through sacred places like the Tree of Souls. Neytiri grew up in the traditional Navi way, learning song, ceremony, hunting, and survival skills from a young age. She was part of the first Metkayina generation born after the arrival of the Sky People, human colonists working under the Resources Development Administration, RDA. As a child, she was taught basic English by her mother Moet and by Dr. Grace Augustine, who established a school at Home Tree to teach young Navi about human customs and language. According to Avatar, Adapt or Die, in 2142, at age 6, Neytiri visited the human base Hell's Gate with other Metkayina children accompanied by Grace Augustine. During this period, Neytiri fell ill due to chemical contamination of the Metkayina's river caused by RDA activities. Neytiri was cured through traditional Navi healing methods involving the Tsahìk flower, guided by Moat and Grace. Following this incident, the Omaticaya elders closed Grace's school and banned Sky people from their territory. Neytiri's early life was shaped by this dual exposure to Navi tradition and limited interaction with humans. After the school's closure, she focused entirely on mastering Navi skills. Under her father's guidance, she trained as a hunter and later completed the Iknamaya rite of passage, successfully bonding with a mountain banshee, Ikran, whom she named Sezi. This marked her full initiation as a Navi hunter. In 2152, tragedy struck Neytiri's family and the Omaticaya clan. These events are laid out in the first film, comic books Avatar, Adapt or Die, and Sute's Path. Neytiri's older sister Silwanen was killed during a brutal Sekops raid on the Omaticaya schoolhouse, which had been reopened under Dr. Grace Augustine's guidance. Silwanen, along with several other young hunters, led a protest against the RDA's destruction of sacred forest areas. After setting fire to a bulldozer used by the RDA to desecrate Navi land, Silwanen and her companions sought refuge at the schoolhouse. Instead of dialogue, RDA security forces responded with lethal force, storming the site and executing those inside. Neytiri, still a young girl at the time, witnessed the fallout of this violence firsthand. With Silwanen gone, Neytiri was abruptly pushed into the role of Tsahìk in training, the spiritual successor to her mother, Moat. Navi custom also dictated that she was now betrothed to Sute, the clan's foremost warrior, who had originally been promised to Silwanen. This period marked a sudden end to Neytiri's childhood. By her early teenage years, she carried the heavy responsibility of future clan leadership, expected to guide spiritual rituals, uphold Eywa's teachings, and eventually lead her people in times of both peace and war. Meeting Jake Sully and the War of 2154. In 2154, Neytiri encountered Jake Sully, a human operating an avatar body in the forests of the Valley of Mo'ara. Neytiri tracked Jake after observing unfamiliar tracks near Home Tree. She intervened to save Jake's life when he was attacked by a pack of viper wolves. Neytiri was initially prepared and on the verge of killing Jake, but the sudden arrival of a wood sprite, an Atokirina, a spiritual seed of Eywa, landing on her arrow caused her to lower her weapon and spare him. Neytiri brought Jake to the Omaticaya leadership at Home Tree Aranahi. Her mother, Moat, instructed Neytiri to teach Jake the ways of the Navi. Neytiri trained Jake in Navi customs, hunting practices, riding the dire horse, known as Pali, and ultimately preparing him for the Iknamaya rite of passage. Neytiri observed Jake successfully bond with a banshee, Ikran, marking his acceptance among the Navi. During this period, Neytiri and Jake developed a personal relationship, culminating in their mating before Eywa at the Tree of Voices in 2154. Taking a mate in the eyes of Eywa is the Navi marriage ceremony. Jake and Neytiri's relationship coincided with increasing conflict between the Omaticaya and the RDA. Neytiri remained loyal to her people during the initial confrontation, but chose to stand with Jake after the destruction of Home Tree. Neytiri participated in the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains. She fought alongside Jake, who assumed the role of Toruk Makto after bonding with the great Leonopteryx, known as Toruk. In battle, she led Omaticaya archers in coordinated aerial attacks while riding her Ikran, Seze, targeting RDA aircraft and providing cover for the ground forces. Neytiri played a critical role in rallying the Navi during key moments of the battle, helping to organize the counter-assault when the odds turned against them. Crucially, Neytiri killed Colonel Miles Quaritch during the battle, protecting Jake and contributing spectacularly to the defeat of the RDA forces. Following the battle, the Omaticaya reclaimed their territory, and the surviving humans were expelled from Pandora. Family life and the Second War. As shown in Frontiers of Pandora, after the War of 2154, Neytiri and Jake settled at a new home tree. By this point, Jake had had his consciousness permanently transferred into his avatar body. Together, Jake and Neytiri became the central leaders of the Omaticaya clan during a period of relative peace. Neytiri and Jake raised a family, having 3 biological children, Netiam, Loak, and Tuktiri, known as Tuk, and adopting Kiri, a child born from the avatar body of Grace Augustine. They also acted as guardians to Spider Socorro, the human son of Colonel Quaritch, who remained close to their family, despite Neytiri's lingering distrust of humans. For over a decade, Neytiri's life was centered on raising her children and preserving the cultural and spiritual traditions of the Omaticaya. She passed down her knowledge of Navi customs, hunting, and spiritual practices, while also helping her children navigate the evolving dangers presented by the human presence on Pandora. In 2168, the RDA returned to Pandora, establishing Bridgehead City and deploying new military units known as recombinants, avatar bodies embedded with the memories and combat skills of deceased human soldiers. Among them was a recombinant version of Colonel Miles Quaritch, resurrected as a Navi warrior with human memories and motivations. As tensions escalated, Neytiri and Jake led guerrilla attacks against RDA supply lines, but were eventually forced into exile when their children were directly threatened by Quaritch's forces. Choosing the safety of their family, they left the forests of the Valley of Moara and journeyed to the distant coastal territories of the Metkayina clan, settling in the reef village of Eywa under the leadership of Tonawari and Ronal. Neytiri initially struggled to adapt to the Metkayina's ocean-based lifestyle, facing cultural differences and personal grief over leaving her ancestral home. Nevertheless, she trained alongside her children to master the aquatic skills of the Metkayina, including freediving, riding the ilu, and understanding the ways of the tulkun, the ocean's largest creatures. In 2170, the RDA located the Sully family's refuge in Eywa, the village of the Metkayina Reef clan, and launched a full-scale assault. The attack culminated in a massive confrontation centered around the Sea Dragon, a heavily armed RDA mothership and whaling vessel used to hunt tulkun and transport military forces. The battle was the largest seen since the First War, involving multiple RDA support vessels, small submersibles, AMP suits, recon soldiers, and dozens of Scorpion gunships. Neytiri fought directly alongside Jake, her children, and Metkayina warriors, leading both aerial and underwater strikes. Riding her Ikran, she launched high-speed ambushes on gunships, providing aerial cover while the Metkayina attacked from the sea. Neytiri was central to the Sully family's survival. She personally helped rescue her children from captivity, defended the tulkun, and, in the climax of the battle, Neytiri led a final assault inside the Sea Dragon, exacting revenge on the RDA soldiers responsible for the devastating death of her eldest son, Neteyam. After the battle, Neytiri mourned Neteyam's death at the Cove of Ancestors, where his body was returned to Eywa. Neytiri and Jake chose to remain with the Metkayina, vowing to protect their surviving children and continue resisting the RDA's expansion efforts across Pandora. Neytiri's legacy and role in the future. By 2170, Neytiri had transitioned from a warrior and hunter to a protector of her family and a symbol of survival for the Omaticaya and Metkayina clans. She represents the link between Navi tradition and evolving interclan alliances, bridging the gap between the forest and reef peoples. Her actions across the first and second films established her as both a defender of Pandora's natural world and a fierce mother willing to make difficult decisions to protect her children and culture. Neytiri remains a key figure in Navi resistance to human colonization, deeply committed to Eywa's balance and her people's sovereignty. Her leadership continues to influence younger generations, and her role is expected to expand further in the years following the Second War. Neytiri in Avatar: Fire and Ash. In Avatar: Fire and Ash, Neytiri's story will enter a new phase. Following the heavy losses in the Battle of 2170, particularly the death of her eldest son Neteyam, Neytiri will grapple with grief and internal conflict. Neytiri will be portrayed questioning the long-standing faith she has placed in Eywa and the traditional Navi way of life. Neytiri will be forced to confront her personal anger and loss, leading to a storyline where she reassesses her purpose within the ongoing struggle against the RDA. The story is expected to explore Neytiri's evolving relationship with Jake, her surviving children, and the wider Navi community as her identity as a protector is tested. Neytiri's presence in Fire and Ash will represent a major shift, from a purely outward battle for Pandora to an inward journey examining personal loss, cultural preservation, and the possibility of a different future for the Navi. This next chapter is set to explore themes of grief, leadership, and transformation, positioning Neytiri at the center of both the physical and emotional stakes of Pandora's evolving story. Neytiri's life mirrors Pandora's turbulent history. From her early training as a hunter to her leadership in times of war, her journey reflects loyalty, resilience, and sacrifice. She helped unite the Omaticaya and Metkayina clans, balancing tradition with adaptation, and played a key role in defending their survival and way of life. As battles continue and new threats emerge, Neytiri remains a central figure, shaping her people's future, protecting her family, and standing at the heart of Pandora's struggle for freedom.
The oceans of Pandora belong to those who respect them, and no one shows more respect than Ronal, Tsahìk of the Metkayina. Before Avatar Fire and Ash, you need to understand the warrior shaman who refused to let pregnancy stop her from charging into battle. Origins and nature. The fiercely independent Tsahìk. Ronal is the spiritual leader, or Tsahìk, of the Metkayina clan. The position is a combination of high priestess, healer, and keeper of cultural memory. While Tonowari handles governance as Olo Aiktan, Ronal guides the clan spiritually, leading sacred ceremonies, interpreting Eywa's will, and preserving their ancestral knowledge. Played by Kate Winslet, Ronal represents something rarely depicted in film, a pregnant warrior who refuses to be sidelined. Winslet performed her underwater scenes after training in freediving, matching Cameron's vision of Ronal as resilient, capable, and bionic in her determination. Her tattoos, shell headpiece, and woven song cord all reflect her authority, marking key spiritual events in her life. Everything about her design emphasizes that she carries the legacy and responsibility of her people on her shoulders. Fiercely independent and guided by tradition, Ronal is skeptical of outsiders and protective to the point of aggression. Her instincts are sharp, her judgment swift, and her commitment to her people unshakable. She is the living embodiment of Metkayina tradition and the spiritual heart of the reef. Avatar, the Way of Water, from suspicion to solidarity. When Jake Sully's family arrives in Eywa seeking Uturu, Ronal responds with immediate hostility. She circles the newcomers, studying their differences, openly criticizing their forest physiology as unsuitable for life on the ocean. Her disdain only grows when she sees Jake's children have 5 fingers, the unmistakable sign of human DNA. Holding their hands up to the crowd, she calls them demon blood. This escalates to near violence when Neytiri defends her children, and the two mothers nearly clash before Tonowari intervenes. Ronal's aggression isn't cruelty, though. It's devotion. Her duty is to protect the reef. She knows the Sky People have done huge damage to the forest clans, and she refuses to let that devastation follow the Sullys to her home. After a debate with her husband, she defers to Tonowari's decision to grant the family sanctuary, but makes one thing clear. If they stay, they must learn the Way of Water and prove they will not endanger the clan. She softens only slightly as she helps train the Sullys. She guides Neytiri in breathing techniques and instructs Took in reef-gathering traditions. Though strict, she is not unjust. Her sternness is rooted in care. Her perspective shifts dramatically when she witnesses Kiri underwater. Kiri's extraordinary connection to Eywa, her ability to enter trance-like states and influence sea life, captures Ronal's attention. She recognizes something sacred in the girl, something beyond normal Navi abilities. Ronal's role as Tsahìk becomes critical when Kiri suffers a violent seizure after connecting to the spirit tree. Human medics rush in with their equipment, but Neytiri dismisses them brutally. She wants the Tsahìk to care for her daughter.
Ouch! You have done nothing!
Ronal relies instead on traditional herbs and chants, applying ancient healing methods that succeed where human machines fail. Ronal restores Kiri to health, highlighting her standing as a true spiritual authority and reaffirming the value of Navi knowledge. However, everything changes when the RDA whalers begin slaughtering Tulkun. Each Metkayina shares a spiritual bond with a Tulkun. Ronal's spirit sister is Roa, a Tulkun matriarch. When Ronal finds Roa and her calf brutally butchered for their Amrita, she unleashes a devastating cry felt across the reef. It's an emotional breaking point that transforms her from a reluctant host to a warrior driven by rage and injustice. The death of Roa catalyzes Ronal's commitment to war, and she now stands ready to fight beside the Sullys against Quaritch and the RDA. They are killers of Tulkun. They must die, she declares. When the Metkayina prepare to strike the sea dragon, Tonowari urges Ronal to stay behind due to her pregnancy. She refuses. For her, fighting is not optional. If she does not defend her people now, there will be no safe future for her unborn child. She charges into battle on her skimwing, wielding a spear with deadly skill. Even in late pregnancy, she is one of the most fearsome fighters in the clan. During the hostage crisis, when Quaritch takes Soraya and others captive, Ronal vents her deepest fear and anger towards Jake. "This is because of you." But the accusation doesn't alter her resolve. Survival, not blame, is the only priority. The aftermath of the battle brings devastating loss. Neteyam dies in part because he was helping save Ronal's child. In the funeral that follows, Ronal presides over the ritual with solemn grace, guiding his body back to Eywa in the glowing waters of the Cove of the Ancestors. When Tonawari declares to Jake, "You are Metkayina now," Ronal stands in agreement. Her acceptance finalizes the Sully's adoption into the clan, sealing a bond forged through grief, courage, and shared struggle. Ronal's significance, themes, and cultural power. Ronal embodies the worldview of the Metkayina more completely than any other character. Her teal skin, ocean-infused adornments, and reverence for the Tulkun reflect a culture built on balance with the sea. Her spiritual leadership showcases the depth of Metkayina tradition, especially their belief that Tulkun are their equals, not just sea creatures. Her horror at the Tulkun massacre underscores Avatar's ecological themes and director James Cameron's own views. To Ronal, the whaler's actions are sacrilegious. Her partnership with Tonawari shows us the Navi ideal of balanced leadership. They govern together, his diplomacy complementing her intuition. Her choice to fight, even pregnant, is a statement about equality in Navi society. Unlike many human cultures, the Navi place no limits on motherhood's role in leadership or warfare. Ronal's decisions are respected, not questioned. Ronal in Fire and Ash and beyond. With Avatar 3 introducing the Mangkwan, the volcanic ash people led by Verang, Ronal will face her most complex challenge. Unlike the Omaticaya or Metkayina, the ash people may reject Eywa entirely. If they align with the RDA, Ronal will confront Navi enemies for the first time. It seems likely that Ronal will also give birth to her third child in the upcoming film. Her newborn will raise the stakes of every decision she makes, requiring her to become an even more formidable protector. What else is there to look out for? Kiri's growing spiritual power will draw Ronal into a mentorship role. The first trailer shows Ronal almost begging Kiri to use her immense power, presumably because someone close to her is in trouble. Ronal already recognizes that Kiri's connection to Eywa is unique. We know this from the second movie. So as Kiri's abilities evolve, she will need guidance from someone who understands the power and responsibility of spiritual leadership. Also, it looks like romance will continue to bloom between her daughter Tsahìk and Loak. This will no doubt bring more involvement from Ronal, perhaps some more funny discussions between her and Tonawari. Will Loak lead Tsahìk astray? Probably. Will Tsahìk lead Loak astray? Unlikely. One thing that is likely is more Tulkun action, so expect Ronal to come into play there. And finally, the trailer gives a look at Ronal in warrior mode once again. She is puncturing holes in a RDA submersible with her spear. This is a side of her we love to see. Kate Winslet didn't get enough to do in the second film, especially given she trained to hold her breath for as much as 7 minutes. And also because she is Kate Winslet. Are you excited to see how Ronal's journey unfolds in Fire and Ash? Let me know what you're most looking forward to in the comments. The oceans of Pandora still have many secrets left to explore. Born from a dead body, fathered by a planetary consciousness, and in control of the nature around her. If you think Kiri's power is impressive now, wait until she takes on Verang. So what happens when a girl who controls nature meets a clan that destroys it with fire? Let's get into Kiri and what you need to know before Fire and Ash. Origin and early life. Kiri was born in 2155, just 1 year after the First War. Her full name, Kiri Tesuli Kiresi Ite, carries the weight of her origins. Kiri as her given name, Tesuli from her adoptive father Jake's Navi name, Cheikh Suli, and Kiresi Ite meaning daughter of Grace, the Navi translation of Grace Augustine. As Jake explains, she was born of Grace's still living but comatose avatar body after Grace died in the 2154 conflict. No one knows who the father is. Her existence is treated as a mystery, described by some as a virgin birth, and by others as Eywa's will. Jake and Neytiri adopted her into the Sully family immediately. Kiri is about the same age as Neteyam. In The Way of Water, we even see flashes of their early days, when both infants were brought by Jake and Neytiri to the Tree of Souls for their first connection to Eywa, surrounded by the entire Omaticaya clan. She has both human and Navi traits, 5 fingers, soft eyebrows, and no elongated canines, marking her as a Navi-human hybrid like the rest of the Sully kids. She grew up among the Omaticaya, first in the remnants of Home Tree between 2155 to 2168, and later in the Floating Mountains. She lived shoulder to shoulder with Neteyam, Loak, and Tuk. Moat, her adoptive grandmother, guided her through Navi traditions, rituals, and healing arts, something we see in Avatar: The High Ground. She spent much of her childhood alongside Spider, the human boy born just before the fall of the home tree. Together, they explored forests, observed animals, and learned survival skills. In High Ground, we even see them wandering Hell's Gate and venturing into dangerous old battlefields. To Kiri, Spider isn't just a friend, he's her brother. She's always the one fighting for his place in the family, even when Neytiri refuses. The comics show her inviting him into Sully celebrations, much to Neytiri's frustration. Is a Neytiri versus Kiri clash on the cards in Fire and Ash? Given Spider and Kiri's close relationship, it seems possible to us. Tell us what you think in the comments. When growing up, life in the Metkayina clan included lessons, games, swimming, training and hunting, and navigating the forest. Kiri showed a consistent interest in the natural world and in the plants and creatures around her, often spending extended periods observing them closely, a practice we can see carried through into the Way of Water. This curiosity closely reflected Grace's passion for Pandora's flora. Unique powers and spiritual connection. As she grew up, Kiri's abilities and her affinity with Pandoran nature became more visible. Kiri tamed a mountain banshee, Ikran, named Tanhi when she was a child. Unlike other Metkayina, she does not go through the standard Iknamaya trial with a banshee like we see Jake experience in Avatar. If you remember, that was a life-or-death moment for Jake. Instead, she simply approaches an Ikran and asks it to be her friend, and it accepts her. She also starts to ride earlier than typical Metkayina teens, and her bond with the animal is presented as empathetic and effortless rather than relying on physicality. In The Way of Water, her close bond with Eywa becomes apparent very early on. After glimpsing her as a child in the opening montage with Jake's narration, teenage Kiri's first words sound strangely familiar and comforting. In case you didn't know, Kiri is voiced by Sigourney Weaver, who played Grace in the first movie. In essence, she is voiced by her mother. We hear Kiri debating with Moat, her grandmother, about the best remedy for war wounds. Kiri tells her, "I would use Yalna bark, because it is better, it stings less." Kiri makes sure to stay close to her mother, visiting her avatar body and looking lovingly upon her. She watches Grace's old video logs explaining the Pandoran ecology, again with reverence and love in her eyes. We hear her siblings make gentle jokes about who her father is, and we will come back to that later. Remember, if you're enjoying this video, make sure to give it a like. In one of the franchise's most beautiful sequences, we see Kiri in the Pandoran jungle at one with and in awe of the plant life and the animal life. Ato Karena gather as they did with Jake in the first movie, highlighting her significance to Eywa. As she sleeps on the jungle floor, she falls into a deep trance, and Spider struggles to wake her. She was communing with Eywa. Exiled to the Metkayina and the Second War, the Sully family then fled east to Awa'atlu, the ocean home of the Metkayina clan, leaving the forest behind. From the moment they arrive, Kiri adapts to the ocean faster than any of her siblings. She swims and dives effortlessly, explores reefs, kelp forests, and coral groves, moving with grace and wonder among the ocean creatures. Her first encounters with the local animal life cement her place within the reef immediately, while the others, Jake, Neytiri, Loak, all struggle to bond with the sea creatures and perform Tsahìk. Kiri's Ilu approaches her, and immediately they are a team. We then see her ability to command sea life, while Ronal watches on closely. The new trailer hints that she's only just beginning to understand the full extent of these gifts, and that they're set to shape the outcome of the coming conflict. But even surrounded by all the reef's beauty, Kiri feels out of place. The Metkayina children call her a freak. She tells Neytiri that she just wants to be normal, and she tells Jake that she knows she probably sounds crazy. They both, as good parents would, reassure her that she is perfect the way she is. Kiri's first encounter with the Metkayina spirit tree marks a dramatic turning point. She approaches the glowing tendrils carefully and performs Tsahìk. She then experiences a vivid vision of Grace where they embrace. She asks why she is different and what the Great Mother wants from her. And when she asks who her father is, the vision ends with a life-threatening seizure. Scans show unusual neural activity triggered by contact with the tree, but Norm's human science fails to save her. Ronal's Eywa forward healing technique, on the other hand, brings her back to life. Many have theorized that her system was overloaded because she is an avatar of Eywa, and connecting to the tree was like plugging a power source into itself. What do you think about this theory? What if this wasn't a seizure? What if it was a download? We'll be getting deeper into Kiri and Eywa's connection shortly, so stick around. Kiri's abilities prove critical in life or death moments during the skirmish at the Three Brothers. She manipulates sea plants to snare enemy submersibles. One mini-sub pursuing Loak and Took is destroyed through her intervention, likely saving Loak's life. And as the Sea Dragon mothership sank, she sent glowing fish into the wreck to illuminate escape routes, bringing Neytiri and Took safely from flooded compartments. These actions show her near-symbiotic relationship with the ocean and its creatures, turning the tide in favor of her family. Kiri's father. There is plenty of speculation around who Kiri's father is and what the truth around her birth is. While we do not yet have any clear idea, it seems likely that Fire and Ash will shed more light on this. The latest trailer hinted as much, with Moat saying, "Tell her it is time." Although the children joke in The Way of Water that Norm might be the father, this seems very unlikely when you look closely at what we've seen. Firstly, it is fair to say that Grace's character in Avatar was beyond human childbearing age. Secondly, deleted scenes from the first Avatar film reveal that Norm was already taken. He and Trudy Chacon were romantically entwined for a short time before her death, and Norm does not seem the type to play the field like that. Also, Norm being the father is far less exciting than some of the mind-boggling alternatives. Could she be a clone of Grace herself? This would line up with the Kiresi Ite, daughter of Grace, naming convention. However, this seems unlikely to us, as it doesn't explain her powers. So if she isn't a clone and she isn't Norm's, could we be looking at a literal god walking among the Navi? Is she Pandora's messiah? Eywa incarnate? She certainly ticks many of the boxes. Virgin birth with no known father, the ability to command nature, and perhaps even undergoing death and resurrection at the hands of the spirit tree. Kiri's role in the future. Looking ahead, Kiri's role is poised to expand significantly. The Fire and Ash trailers have already shown us that Kiri will play a crucial role in the new film, as she features prominently in all of them. We know that she will spend time with the Tlalim clan aboard their sky caravans, that she will get into trouble with Loak in the jungle again, and most crucially, that she will be taken prisoner by the film's new antagonist, Verang, the Mangkwan clan leader. These so-called Ash people are believed to have rejected Eywa, and the trailer suggests they've formed an alliance with Quaritch and the RDA. That puts Kiri, a Navi hybrid born of a human's avatar, possibly the daughter of Eywa herself, at the heart of the struggle, between humans and the Navi, between spirituality and destruction, between the way of Eywa and the way of Fire and Ash. Kiri's life is defined by mystery, power, and destiny. As new threats arise from both darker Navi factions and the returning RDA, Kiri's abilities will be crucial for the survival of her people and the balance of the planet itself.
Before Jake Sully became Toruk Makto, before the Navi united against the Sky People, one human made a choice that changed everything. Captain Trudy Chacon, RDA pilot, defector, total badass. As we head into Avatar Fire and Ash, here's everything you need to know about the woman who proved that not all humans were enemies of Pandora. Early life and military career. Trudy Chacon's backstory isn't laid out in Avatar 2009, but official sources and extended lore fill in the gaps. She was a former Marine with significant flight experience before the RDA recruited her, and by the time Jake Sully arrived on Pandora in May 2154, Trudy had already been working for the Resources Development Administration for several years. But Trudy never fit the mold of a typical SecOps grunt. According to the official Pandorapedia, she tended to get along better with scientists on the Avatar program than with the military types. That's important. It tells you where her loyalties were leaning long before the film's events forced her to choose a side. And to choose our side, leave a like. Her aircraft was the SA-2 Samson, call sign Samson-16. Later, she'd nickname it Maya. Sometimes, she just called it Baby. The Samson tops out at 144 knots, and is built for speed and versatility. Trudy flew it like an extension of her own body. Arrival on Pandora and early service. Trudy's home away from home was Hell's Gate, a fortress of concrete, pollution, and paranoia sitting in the middle of Pandora's rainforest. Population, 2,500. Her job there was simple: fly the science team wherever they needed to go. Dr. Grace Augustine ran the Avatar program. Trudy was her pilot. Grace had zero patience for jarhead militarism, but she trusted Trudy, which says a lot. Trudy called Grace ma'am with a light, almost affectionate tone. The two of them shared a mutual respect, which would become critical later. In Avatar 2009, Trudy's first major scene is the initial forest sortie. Grace, Norm, and Jake's avatars get to work, and then everything goes sideways. Jake gets chased by a Thanator and disappears into the forest. Trudy stays behind with SecOps gunner Wainfleet, searching for Jake until nightfall when Colonel Quaritch orders her to withdraw. It's too dangerous. This moment tells you who Trudy is. She's not just following orders. She cares about the people she flies for. When Jake finally turns up the next day, safe with the Metkayina clan, Trudy fist bumps him. "You know I got your back," she says. It's a small moment, but it matters. See, here's what most people don't realize. Trudy was already in a moral gray zone. Like Jake, she was technically working for Quaritch, but her sympathies were with Grace and the science team. In a deleted scene that didn't make the theatrical cut, Trudy and Jake are at Site-26, the remote link station in the Hallelujah Mountains. They're preparing a data upload for Hell's Gate. Trudy tells Jake, "We don't give him something. He's gonna shut us down. We're buying time." She knows the RDA's agenda is escalating, and she's complicit in Grace's strategy to stall them by feeding Quaritch minimal intel. Trudy is already walking a tightrope. The assault on Home Tree. Trudy's simmering doubts about the RDA boil over during the assault on the Metkayina home tree. Colonel Quaritch launches a full-scale military strike on Home Tree in August 2154. The plan? Fire gas grenades to force the Navi out, then bring the whole structure down with missiles. Trudy is piloting one of the gunships in the assault formation. Up until now, she's obeyed orders, despite her doubts. But as she hovers before the enormous tree, watching the Navi desperately defend their ancestral home, she hesitates. Trudy peels away.
I didn't sign up for this
She shouts over the comm, breaking formation. Her door gunner, Lyle Wainfleet, is furious, but Trudy doesn't care. In this moment, Trudy Chacon becomes the only RDA soldier to defect outright during the assault on Home Tree. Massacring civilians is a line she will not cross. And from this point forward, she's no longer fighting for the RDA. She's fighting against them. Is Trudy the most badass human on Pandora? Let us know what you think. The escape and the resistance. After Home Tree falls, Jake, Norm, and Grace are detained at Hell's Gate for treason. Quaritch plans to shut down the Avatar program permanently. Using her access as a SecOps officer, Trudy bluffs her way past a guard by pretending to deliver meals, then quickly incapacitates him. An extended scene shows her manipulating and threatening the guard before knocking him unconscious. With help from Dr. Max Patel, another scientist sympathetic to the Navi cause, Trudy frees Jake, Norm, and Grace from their holding cell. They dash to the hangar where Samson 1-6 is waiting and take off under fire from Quaritch. Grace is badly wounded. They head to Site-26 before airlifting the Mobile Link trailer to the Sacred Tree of Souls area. This enables Jake and Norm to continue operating their avatars remotely. Without Trudy, the final act of Avatar wouldn't happen. Trudy is now a traitor in the eyes of her former comrades, yet she shows no hesitation. When they reach a safe distance, Jake looks at her and says, "You're one of us now." Trudy nods. She's all in. Symbolism. Tiger versus Dragon. Before the final battle, Trudy rebrands her aircraft, painting blue and white stripes across the hull and fuselage with the help of Metkayina warriors. She renames the gunship Rogue One. No longer part of the RDA fleet, the aircraft is now a rebel craft fighting for the Navi. On the nose, there's a painting of a Bengal tiger. This imagery is deliberate. In ancient Chinese philosophy, the tiger and the dragon represent yin and yang. The dragon signifies heaven, the sky, offensive power. Colonel Quaritch's personal gunship, the C-21 Dragon assault ship, is emblazoned with a painting of a dragon. The tiger, by contrast, represents the earth. Trudy's tiger symbolizes her allegiance to Pandora's ecosystem, to the living world she's chosen to defend. But here's the kicker. By the year 2154, the Bengal tiger is extinct, courtesy of man-made environmental catastrophe. Trudy is aligning herself with Pandora's rainforest, defending it from suffering the same fate as Earth's did. And if you're enjoying this Avatar deep dive, don't forget to hit subscribe for more. The Battle of the Tree of Souls. August 23rd, 2154. The Battle of Eywa losing. The Assault on the Tree of Souls. Jake Sully, now Tsahìk Mokto, has united 15 Navi clans to defend the sacred site. Trudy Chacon is the only human fighting on the Navi side. Jake and Norm are there too, but they're in avatar bodies. If their avatars die, they can exit the link. They have 2 lives, and Trudy has only 1. In a deleted scene the night before the battle, Trudy uses Rogue One to train the Navi warriors on how to bring down RDA aircraft, teaching them the weak points of Scorpion gunships and the massive bomber shuttle. It's valuable intel. The Navi have Ikran and bows. Trudy gives them tactics. She also has a conversation with Jake. "I'm going up against gunships with bows and arrows," she says, half joking, half terrified. "Well, we're on the right side, right?" Jake responds. Trudy nods. She knows the odds are hopeless, but she's fighting anyway. The battle begins. Trudy pilots Rogue One into combat among swarms of Navi Ikran riders. Her mission? Distract Colonel Quaritch's dragon gunship so Jake, riding the great Leonopteryx Taruk, can attack the bomber shuttle unimpeded. Trudy dives into the fray, guns blazing. "You're not the only one with a gun, bitch," she says over the radio, strafing Quaritch's aircraft in a daring assault run. She inflicts minor damage on the Dragon's escorts, a few impacts on the Dragon itself, but she is heavily outgunned. The Dragon's gunners shoot back. An explosion tears through one of Rogue One's twin-rotor engines. The Samson reels, one rotor blown out, and begins an uncontrollable spin. Asymmetric lift kicks in, just as Trudy warned the Navi would happen to enemy craft. Now her own ship is crippled by the same vulnerability. Trudy draws on all of her skill and experience, but the damage is too great. Rogue One is going down. In her final moments, fully aware that a crash is inevitable, Trudy whispers, "I'm sorry, Jake," over comms. Moments later, Quaritch mercilessly fires a missile at the crippled Samson. Trudy's gunship erupts in a fireball. She dies instantly. A hero's death. A self-chosen martyrdom for the Navi cause. Where would Trudy be now if she'd survived the Battle of the Tree of Souls? We'd love to hear your theories. The Deleted Romance with Norm Spellman. Now let's talk about the subplot that was completely ripped out of the final edit of Avatar. Trudy Chacon and Dr. Norm Spellman had a full-on romantic relationship during the events of the first film. This isn't speculation, it's canon. The World of Avatar, a visual exploration, published in 2022, explicitly confirmed that Norm and Trudy became a couple while stationed at Site 26. Multiple deleted scenes shot by James Cameron show this romance developing on screen. In one deleted scene, Trudy gives Norm a brief flying lesson, showing him how sensitively the Samson responds to turbulence. She tells him to put his hand on the cyclic stick so he can feel it. Their hands touch. The camera lingers. It's a quiet, charged moment. In another deleted scene, during the montage of Jake training with the Metkayina, Jake exits his link and accidentally stumbles upon Norm and Trudy in a compromising position in bed. Cameron cut the scene for runtime, and the theatrical version of Avatar only hints at this relationship. Jake comments, "Norm's attitude has improved lately," with a sly tone. That's the only reference that survived. Why does this matter? Because it adds massive emotional weight to the last half of the film. When Trudy dies in the Battle of the Hallelujah Mountains, she's not just Jake's ally or Grace's pilot. She's Norm's girlfriend. In the original script, Trudy's last words weren't, "I'm sorry, Jake." They were, "Norm, I love you." Trudy's death hits Norm on a deeply personal level. When his avatar is killed by Lyle Wainfleet around the same time, Norm exits the link and clutches his chest. He's experiencing the neural feedback of his avatar dying, yes, but knowing the deleted romance, that moment of him grabbing his heart takes on a double meaning. He's lost Trudy, too. Joel David Moore, who played Norm, said in a 2023 interview that he was actually relieved the romance subplot was trimmed. He felt the Trudy-Norm relationship, while wonderful and precious, wasn't essential to the main plot. Maybe he's right, but it does enrich Trudy's character. It humanizes her, and it makes her final sacrifice even more impactful. Trudy's legacy. Trudy's fierce attack distracts Quaritch at a critical moment, giving Jake an opportunity to cripple a bomber and prevent the destruction of the Tree of Souls. Pandora's victory hinges, in part, on her intervention. For the characters, Trudy's loss is deeply felt. According to Avatar: The Gap Year Tipping Point, a 2025 comic series, Norm eventually falls in love with a Navi woman from the Olangi clan. He has children, he builds a life. But Trudy was his first love, lost in war. Her memory endures. James Cameron himself said years later that he regretted killing Trudy off so early in the franchise, speaking of her amazing integrity in interviews. Michelle Rodriguez, who portrayed Trudy, firmly declined Cameron's half-serious suggestion to bring her back in a sequel. That would be overkill. I died a martyr. She felt it would cheapen Trudy's sacrifice to undo it. And she was right. Trudy Chacon represents something Avatar desperately needed, proof that humans can choose the right side. She never experiences Sahelu or any mystical revelations. Her choice to defect is purely driven by human morality and conscience. In a story about colonialism, exploitation, and environmental destruction, Trudy is the human who refused to sign up for this. As we head into Avatar, Fire and Ash, Trudy's legacy remains. Jake Sully's resistance, the human-Navi alliance, the idea that the Sky People aren't all enemies. Trudy laid that groundwork. She fought beside the Navi and died defending their world. If Fire and Ash explores the cost of resistance, the price of standing up to overwhelming force, Trudy Chacon is the blueprint. Colonel Quaritch might be Pandora's undisputed boogeyman, but lurking behind him in the way of water is a far more calculating threat, General Frances Ardmore. She represents the next evolution of human antagonism on Pandora, systematic, militarized, and utterly devoid of sentiment. The commander who doesn't need to raise her voice. From her first appearance, Ardmore establishes authority not through physical intimidation, but through sheer presence. Actress Edie Falco plays her with icy composure. She doesn't shout, doesn't threaten, and doesn't waste words. Her power is backed by fleets and armies, and she wields it with surgical precision. The extended Ardmore and Quaritch discuss Jake scene reveals the dynamics of this power relationship. In the theatrical cut, we simply see the sea dragon departing for its hunt. But the extended version adds crucial context. Quaritch comes to Ardmore requesting ships and aircraft to pursue Jake Sully, promising to kill him in exchange. Ardmore's response is telling. She dismisses the idea at first, insisting Jake is probably already dead. When Quaritch warns that Jake could be uniting sea clans for a large-scale uprising, we see the calculation in her eyes. The thought of organized Navi resistance unsettles her, not emotionally, but strategically. It's a threat assessment, pure and simple. She agrees to give Quaritch the Sea Dragon, but only for 1 week. This isn't generosity. It's resource allocation. Ardmore operates like a CEO managing a hostile acquisition. Quaritch is dangerous, capable, and now operating in a Navi body that makes him less dependent on human infrastructure. By limiting his resources and timeline, Ardmore ensures he remains her subordinate rather than becoming an independent operator. If he succeeds in killing Jake, excellent. If he fails or goes rogue, she can cut him off. This mirrors Selfridge's relationship with Quaritch in the first film, but with a critical difference. Selfridge lost control because he relied on corporate authority that meant nothing on Pandora's frontier. Ardmore learned from that failure. She maintains operational control through resource allocation, not corporate hierarchy. Even Quaritch, resurrected and enhanced, is merely another asset to be deployed, monitored, and recalled when his utility expires. Don't forget to subscribe. We've got plenty more Avatar deep dives on the way. The machinery of occupation. What makes Ardmore truly terrifying is how she embodies systematic oppression rather than individual cruelty. She doesn't personally torture Navi or burn villages. She authorizes others to do so, maintaining emotional and moral distance from the consequences. The extended Taunui village scene demonstrates this perfectly. While Quaritch and his recoms brutalize the villagers, Ardmore remains safely at Bridgehead, reviewing reports and making strategic decisions. The theatrical version already showed disturbing violence, but the extended cut is significantly more brutal. Soldiers taser the village leader, beat him repeatedly as he begs them not to touch his wife, and threaten the Tsahìk with rifles while she prays to Eywa. Even in its moderated form, the scene is harrowing, and Ardmore approved it all from a distance. When Wainfleet shoots an Elu, when soldiers intensify their torture as the Tsahìk prays, when Quaritch threatens to murder pregnant women and grandmothers, all of this happens under Ardmore's operational authority. She oversees a system that carries out atrocities while maintaining plausible deniability. And if you're enjoying this character breakdown, don't forget to leave a like. The utilitarian logic of genocide. The extended Tulkun hunt sequence further reveals Ardmore's nature, even in her absence. The hunt exists because Ardmore approved Scoresby's contract to harvest Amrita, the anti-aging compound that funds RDA's colonial enterprise. The extended version adds disturbing details. Scoresby explains that grenades are used because Tulkun ears are extremely sensitive to sound. Garvin tells Spider the process is agony for the intelligent creatures. When the hunters separate a calf from its mother, even Wainfleet mutters, "That is just wrong." a rare moment of conscience from a hardened soldier. The extended cut continues past the theatrical ending, showing Scoresby shooting the calf with a harpoon after the mother is already dead. For Ardmore, this is all justifiable. Earth is dying. Humanity needs Pandora's resources. The Tulkun are assets, however intelligent. Their suffering is regrettable but necessary, collateral damage in the grand strategic objective of securing humanity's survival. This utilitarian calculus defines her character. She's not sadistic like Quaritch or greedy like Scoresby. She genuinely believes she's serving the greater good, which makes her infinitely more dangerous. Who is the most frightening RDA figure? Selfridge, Quaritch, or Ardmore? Let us know in the comments. The cold calculus of colonization. What's most chilling about Ardmore is her consistency. Unlike Selfridge, who showed flickers of conscience during Home Tree's destruction, Ardmore never wavers. She doesn't grimace at bad optics or express dismay at casualties. She evaluates outcomes, adjusts strategies, and continues the mission. In the aftermath of Quaritch's failed pursuit of Jake, she'll see a high-value target that killed RDA personnel and allied himself with a newly hostile Reef clan. There is no thought given to revenge or honor. She'll calculate the cost-benefit of continuing the pursuit versus other strategic objectives. Human or Navi, life is data, and data serves the mission. The ultimate bureaucrat. General Francis Ardmore represents the evolution of Avatar's critique of colonialism. Selfridge was corporate greed personified. Quaritch was militarized vengeance incarnate. Ardmore is something more insidious. Bureaucratic imperialism. She doesn't hate the Navi. She doesn't love money. She simply has a job to do. Secure Pandora for human colonization. And she'll do it with methodical efficiency. Villages will burn, Tulkun will be slaughtered, families will be torn apart, all filed under operational necessity in reports she'll review over morning coffee. She's Selfridge without the conscience, Quaritch without the passion. Pure institutional cruelty distilled into a 4-star general's uniform. That's what makes her Avatar's most dangerous villain. She doesn't need to be convinced she's right. She knows she is. And nothing, not protest, not casualties, not even the complete destruction of an intelligent species, will make her question that certainty. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more Avatar deep dives.